she's going to be coming back to our board.
Okay.
I will say, making progress on our efforts to develop solar voltaic project on the active landfill on Clearwater Road and some land also in that same area. Three members of the committee that have been instrumental in bringing us this far. I'll turn it over to them.
Hello, my name is Ted Nitz. I'm a project manager with Walden Environmental Engineering.
And as you know, I'm your coordinator of Business Project, which I'm proud to say that we're getting really close now to certification, which I'm excited about. And I think that the goals of Environmental Conservation Board, so all the pieces kind of fit together.
So, we appreciate the opportunity, this evening to, update you on, progress. Carol Lee, she's just as involved as ever, so, the ad hoc committee and, Soul Systems, shows slow development this time, solid progress, towards an experience, the board was provided an update, progress report, committee, and then the most up-to-date, working draft is in place Friday, we'll say that there has been, advancements in the consensus of the dated, draft. And topics, in detail, and also expressed, expressed here by the board, stressing the importance of working to lessen or mitigate, flow through the process to habitat. That's been a specific target we have for us. While we're at the same time still targeting a high level of household equivalents, renewable energy for the construction, and then also lead the way towards displacing the need for fossil fuels. We spent time reviewing the overall approach of Soul Systems, how they approach projects, how they're putting the experts in place, the process, the time, we're also working with Jewel. Jewel is the community choice aggregate that's been selected by the village and town to seek or determine pathways for more integration, more benefits with the two of these related concepts in the same category. So we're doing these two agencies, entities to talk about how to provide more benefits. We've also met with the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency, and we're beginning the process of working with their board, their staff, on how to make sure that the correct pathway and then we continue to discuss questions, process itself, what other communities are doing, through the advocate and sort of state agencies that say help communities with projects, for the resource for us. Closer to home. Closer to home was presented to the Environmental Conservation Board. As you know, some have also made presentations and talked with the water and space innovation groups. Both signaled their support for this project after hearing a presentation, reviewing the questions, critical review of what we're proposing for these projects. Clean water and open space preservation, we believe is advanced the letter that the board will receive. And if it's not here already, we're aware that the Environmental Conservation Board is sending that to express their support. So, our results so far, the direction that it's headed does suggest that we'll be able to more utilize the landfill area. The probable now that we'll be able to use more landfill than what was proposed for the visit for the cultural reservation.
That's based on the visits that they've made.
These are more visits that they've done twice.
Actually, based on both visits, one confirming the other that what more information out there.
Now, that's great, but also then a corresponding less utilization of the wood units. Still get the same results. It's probably not over one landfill, so the corresponding problem will have less wood units. It's still a process, I think it's still a process that needs to go through. Have the geotechnical crews, can't say, heavy direction. We'll be able to reflect that difference and that advancement people have asked, how much of this can we, like, make available on the town? So we're kind of still negotiating, I guess that's the, we'd like to, make as much as we can, put as much as we can available without too much that, we're still negotiating, but, whatever we can, if we could do that, I think.
So I think there's quite a bit that we can put up today, like there's some summaries that don't, that we could.
So we can send that to
Redact some
Kathy,
information.
and we can put things up there, and then, I think also, people are just interested in knowing more about it.
Let's support that.
It's probably just the lease and the business term lease. Closely held, because it finished that structured deal, Q&A, just mentioning the back to the left is, Karen did an analysis of carbon sequestration to quantify how many years after before it's carbon neutral under 3 years of driving. May has two other documents, file this that was done by John Brown Society with data.
So, hey, as much as we can, we should just put it up there and
How about the propose the other, like the like that's PowerPoint that you did that had the comparisons of the different companies? I would think that someone who spoke with me, contacted me, was interested in that, and so specifically, is that something, since it is public knowledge, it's here.
So we know to put that up.
Yeah.
Practically, how do we do that?
give the cat,
Okay, that's very simple.
she can create a page for solar, the solar project has a name.
You guys are aware of this, drop offs of all the
Could it be a link to that drop?
Well, you can just make sure you tell Kathy, make a separate folder, that, and then she can download, again, send her the link to that separate folder, so she only downloads things that we can make publicly available. Or put on the web or something, but.
Is there a sense that there's going to be a few different options that are presented as possibilities that maximize the effectiveness of the system and the revenue generation of the system and forest and the disruptions, so we can kind of like get a sense of what's
Probably.
Pretty much the same group of us are doing the two, but they're two separate issues. And in that parallel issue, part of the data that we gathered was from Central Hudson as to where are their distribution pipe, I'll call them pipes, in New Paltz. There are 5 of them. And each of them have that same maximum capacity of approximately 6 megawatts, and they're all used a little bit, so there's only 5 more megawatts that can be fed into each of those remaining, and the one that goes down towards the fairgrounds is already spoken for, I think.
Well,
So now
project
there's
is
4. This project would take one of those and fill up its capacity, leaving 3. So yes, we know, we do understand what can be done, and in general sense where it is, because it needs to be able to tap into one of those pipes, and they're not ubiquitous in the town. They're in only certain locations. I could actually show you the map at the end of the meeting if you want, and the remaining capacities, because I think I have both of those charts with me. So it doesn't show up in this exercise on this lease at the landfill, but it does show up in our work for writing the law. Separate exercise. Does that answer your question?
Yes. One thing that I've been wondering about is when you come to us with acreage, so this much on the landfill and this out in the forest that would need to be, I would hope that it would be clear that's how much would be cut, not how much would be situated. Do you know what I mean? So the cells are, they would be on a certain amount of land, and if they were, depending on which part of a hill they're on, you might need to cut trees in order to get sun to those cells. So
agree with you that
Good to know.
if there
It
are,
felt-
if there are cuts that happen, let's maximize
Good.
on the capacity of that site.
All set?
Yes, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks for
guys.
coming again. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Appreciate it.
So this next one is I think the board has actually approved my signing this before, based on Joe's recommendations, but Joe finally looked at it. This is for the Municipal Energy Services Agreement with Jewel Assets for the CCA. And so this is the same, Joe, the town's attorney has looked it over, and the village's attorney has looked it over. They're both okay with what's there. They made a few minor changes. Jewel agreed to that. And now this is just the resolution's on page 5 of the contract. And it's just authorizing the supervisor to sign this contract and enter into the Municipal Energy Services Agreement with Jewel.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second it for discussion.
Sure.
I do have just a couple of questions. I read through it mostly this afternoon, to be honest, and I did a search through it, looking for something that would tell me how much of the energy is going to be 100% green, or is there a commitment for it to be green?
There
And
is, right?
And I didn't find it, although my recollection is that there is a 100% green requirement, but is it in,
I couldn't tell you where it is
But
in
it-
the contract, but I know that was one of the things that we said right at the outset.
so it's in there
It's in there,
somewhere?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. And do we, that to
That's
me-
one of the options that people can choose, but it's the default option. And then if they don't want that, they can choose brown or to be
Central
out
Hudson.
entirely.
And I didn't see an explanation of those different levels in there. Are all those levels in there? There were two documents one was signed by Direct Energy Services, Inc., who's the competitive supplier, and the other is signed by Jewel, both of them signed by the town.
Yep.
I guess both of them signed by Jewel, only the one is though signed by the competitive supplier.
Yeah.
But I didn't see where it said that the competitive supplier had to provide options or all green and 100% green. That was, and I can't, I
Yeah.
have no internet connection, so I can't.
I can't speak exactly when it's in it, but that's been the discussion all along, and it's never, and I know that it's in there somewhere. It's either in this or one of the other agreements that we have with them, maybe when we started the CCA process, but they're both in there. And they've already sent out, letters to people saying that, saying that that's what's
Yes.
being offered, so. And by state law, they have to prove that that's what they're providing.
Well, I think
You know, the
their
state
their
checks up on
approach is
that.
to do that through certificates, I believe, rather than direct purchases from a combination of direct purchase and certificates. Do we know if they're going to be buying?
Right, which is part of being rated. And so we have, Gene has gotten a few different proposals from different companies, and we have them presented here if the board has any questions. I think Gene has a recommendation for one of them, CBiz. And I asked, it's not the cheapest one. My question to Gene this afternoon, when we were talking about it, was like, well, why not go with the cheapest one? And the cheapest one is they do it one time and then that's it. You never hear from them again. The other ones will update it over time for a cost, but at least it's updatable. And so you're not, you don't pay one-time fee and then wait 10 years and then pay the big cost again. You can update it, so, over the long term, it's probably cheaper than doing it once every 10 years. But,
And if you read your 3 proposals, I just found that CBIZ, what they're offering is much more thorough than the other 2 companies. And of course, it's your decision.
Have you heard from, have you spoken to any other municipalities that use CBiz, Gene, and
Pretty much everybody does use CBIZ.
They do? Uh-huh.
Yes, but I got other pricing as well.
so, that was to approve Gene's recommendation, CBiz? Okay.
CBiz?
The next is at the New York State Government Finance Officers Association last month. There's presentations. It's a way to, this is called Disability Management Consultants. If they'll do, help advise municipalities when questions of disability or workers' compensation or anything else comes up. They'll, on a case-by-case basis, they will provide consultation. It doesn't cost anything to sign up with them. You pay when you use them, right, Gene? And so I think this is kind of informing the board and seeing if the board is interested in using them, and then I think we would only be paying when we decide as a board that we want to use their services. So this is.
And obviously you found a need for this. You're seeing a need for this?
Last year's workers' comp premium went up 34%. So I think if we had, I find that our outside agency does not do investigations, does not pursue anything, whereas this would do that.
But aren't workers' comp rates kind of, they're fixed for certain work and certain positions? They're not like
Yes, but
negotiable.
there are limitations.
Or association is like, well, how do you control costs?
Yeah.
And you control costs often by bringing in outside consultants to advise you to do the right thing.
Because we
And
don't have that expertise in-house, so
Oh,
it's like,
absolutely.
come on in and help us make sure that we're not getting fleeced by the workers' comp.
So I guess-
fleeced by the companies, and, just make sure that we're following the right procedures.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right paperwork filled out, sometimes claims get denied. And if people don't go to the doctor within the right amount of time, then the town's, on the hook for the payments. And so they make sure that you follow the rules, because the insurance companies, what they want to do is say, sorry, you didn't follow the rules, we're not covering that.
Well, I guess my thought was, if we saw this huge increase, and if engaging a company like this could have helped perhaps mitigate how much it was, and hearing the discussion about, well, if we need them, it sounds like
We need 'em.
we need them now, because we want to see if we can't get a reduction so that the next premium doesn't go up, but rather goes down because of their help in doing it. So I not only support it conceptually, I would advocate for us bringing them in to make sure we do all we can to mitigate next year's increase.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's you bring it up for a certain circumstance, but that we bring them in as kind of look at how we're handling it and from policy and how we work through these and kind of advise us on those policies. Is there an interest in doing that?
They can do that.
Yeah.
If you like, I'll ask them to come and speak to you.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking more, if they are like, hey, they can do a work.
The management consultants as a consultant to the town.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, so the next.
Can I just say before Neil goes on, we're still in public comment on the budget, right?
Yep.
So is anyone else here to speak about the budget? Do we want to close that public hearing, or leave it open to the rest of the day?
I mean,
Do it when we start the budget.
we'll start the
Okay,
budget,
good.
and then we'll close the hearing, and then we'll
Thanks.
talk about the budget.
Okay,
But
great.
that's good to know. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but people should know, if you have water and sewer in the town, someone's going to be coming to your door and asking to replace your water meter. And that's being paid for with a grant from the Department of Environmental Protection out of New York City because of the aqueduct shutdown. So please let them into your house and let them change your water meter first. But second, as we go through the code, we've found that there are some changes that we need to make to the code because we're changing the way that we're going to be billing. And so the code talks about quarterly billings, and in cubic feet. We're switching everything to gallons, so we need to make some updates to the code at the same time. And so, this is kind of a resolution to maybe work with Joe, make these changes. We could set the public hearing. We probably need to do this, sometime in beginning of the year in January, or I don't know if we could get this all done by 2 or 3 weeks from now,
Okay,
but
well,
we could try.
I hope you'll try, because I think that after at least after the fourth quarter billing on December 31st, the village will be on the monthly.
Okay.
And that's if I can push off after November 30th,
So,
because they have 214 meters done, and they want money. They want money.
I know. So do you think we can get these changes to the code by 2 weeks from now, before the next meeting, December?
No, because you have to set a public
Public
hearing.
Well, no, we could set the public hearing for December 7th,
Okay.
right? Could we?
I think you have to have the draft law before you can.
There you
schedule
go.
a
So we
hearing.
can't do it. So
Resolution.
January, we can have the draft law by then. So we'll work with Joe, and maybe at the next meeting in 2 weeks, we'll have the draft law, and we
Could
can set the
also-
public hearing at that time.
Would that give us enough
Call a
time
special
for the
meeting.
new year
In
to
December?
potentially adopt?
We have a meeting at the
Fifth and
end of
19th.
December
Yeah, that's right.
that I know
19th
we're
is
all
the
looking
last
forward to.
Isn't that our Christmas party? No.
Yeah.
Christmas
The last
party,
meeting,
public
unless we
hearing.
did a special meeting.
We have a meeting this week, next week, the week after, and then in December,
That's right.
because of joint meetings. So
Mm.
we'll work, if the board's all in favor of that, we will work on making those changes.
Let's do it.
Definitely.
And the change in the rates to all gallons,
Yeah.
and look at the rates for water three and water four, please.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna have to, it's gonna be a lot of work. So,
Oh, no.
well, I'm also wondering if maybe we can bring Ted in on this. Ted, is Ted here still?
No, he just
No,
left.
he left.
He's left, but
It's working on the solar thing.
Ted, his background is
Probably.
water sewer engineer.
Oh, great.
So, and I think he's one of the consultants, so maybe we'll
Mm-hmm.
have Ted help us out a little bit with that. What his background is.
Well, the conversion from
And-
cubic feet or meters or whatever to gallons, that's arithmetic, so that's.
Yeah, no,
that's a
I think it's,
formula in the computer. It's the other that's the issue. The rate, did you say, for two of the districts?
Two of the districts are in deficit, so there'll be a rate change for those.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I would like.
yeah.
Well, it's,
Slow grade.
well, if I follow the law, they can't operate in a deficit by law, don't they have to be at least break even?
Yes.
Yeah, so then there's really, we don't have much discretion, do we, other than to adjust the rates accordingly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Let's
yeah,
do it then.
Yeah, we have to. We don't have a choice.
they're making us. Okay, we'll get on that. So where we are, so this number 7 is we've been talking about this, a grant application with the Hudson River Valley Greenway. Part of that, they want to know about the seeker documents. Has seeker been done on this project? When we've worked with Joe Moriello and the engineers, and it's a type 2, or is it, it's a type 2 because it's it's trail work, and if trail work is being, maintenance work, and that's what the engineer said this is, it's a type 2 and it's a neg deck.
Yep.
So, but the board has to approve that, but we have the resolution in here, and so we can submit it with the grant that's due tomorrow.
To execute a document,
Or
or is it the motion
resolution
to-
designating the town board lead agency
Yes, there you go.
and determination of non-significance under seeker for the,
As you're reminding us, we have to do something before number 9.
yes.
Hearing.
Yeah, I'd like to, is anyone here to talk about the budget? If not, I'd like to make,
There may,
I just had I don't know, I had a question because I saw that it was great, you were considering raising our taxes by 5 to 6% next year? Yeah.
more than that, 6.67. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that right now. After we close the public hearing, I'll explain where some of that's going.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So all in favor of closing the public hearing?
aye.
Aye, aye.
Except If she wants to talk.
Yeah.
Unless you want to talk.
would like-
Well, I just don't want you, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yep.
I assume you've gone over it and you have to, but here's the thing, I got a refund from the state of New York for like $565, right?
Yep.
Because we met our 2% cap,
That was a few years ago, because the state's
No, I
not,
got it like a month ago. I got 500. Oh,
Yes.
that's different? That's
yeah,
different.
it's different.
Okay, all right. So I thought I was just gonna have to just give you back money that they're giving me, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why do you bother? All right.
Because two different taxing
All right.
authorities. I didn't get a check for $556.
I didn't get any. But, so, we close the public hearing? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so, we've been, now talking about this for a few meetings now, and we had the tentative budget, and then the town board has made some adjustments to that, and now we have what's called the 2020 preliminary budget. And currently, that, we're looking at a 6.67% tax increase. And I just wanted to, and that's the amount that is raised by taxes. And to kind of go into the background for that, the budget is made up of appropriations, that's what we spend. And then there's revenues, and those revenues are fees that, people pay to the planning board, or to use the transfer station, or to use the Moriello pool, or to use the community center. And then the third part is the fund balance. So any money that we have left over from the previous year that we didn't spend, that gets put into, we can use a portion of that to put into this year's budget, right? And so that, what they call fund balance, you should keep, by recommendations from the state, you should have about 10%, at least 10 to 15, sometimes 20%, as a reserve fund for things that may come up, right? But they don't want you having too much, because if you have too much, that means you're raising people's taxes too much and keeping all this money in the fund balance. And so, over the last few years, we've spent, we had a very large fund balance. We have been spending that down. Last year, we spent, I'll get there in a little bit, but last year, we spent $428,000 out of the fund balance to not raise taxes. We're now down to 10%, or right around 10%, which is what the policy is, that the town needs to keep that much there for safety reasons. So this year, for the first time, we're not appropriating anything from fund balance. So that's one of the reasons that the taxes are going up. And I'll talk a little bit about that. You could say that that's a problem for taxes going up, but you could also say that that's good budgeting. We budgeted, I think, very well last year. We don't have a lot of money left over after we spent everything, which means that I think we have the right amount of money in the different budget lines, so there's not a lot of extra. So that's the real big difference between this year's and last year's. Is last year we had about $500,000 that we could basically take out of our savings and use towards what we're spending this year. This year we have nothing, so
No extra.
no extra money from this year's budget. But the other thing is revenue is up about 10% from last year. And a part of that is last year we raised fees in a lot of our different departments. The planning board raised their fees, the pool raised their fees, the rec center raised their fees. We've done okay, but that's up about 10%, but some of that's also, revenue is also considered grants that we got. Laura got some big grants this year for the new backhoe, so a lot of that is grants that we got in.
How much of the fixed cost of the healthcare and?
So then the last part is, what are appropriations? So are we spending more than we spent last year? We're spending about 4% more than we did last year. And that ends up being about, $431,000 more than we spent last year for appropriations. And if we go down and we look at what our fixed costs are, our retirement went up $50,000, medical went up $81,000, debt payment went up $117,000. Some of that is for open space, for the
bonds?
bond funds. Our rescue services went up $70,000. Part of that was a board decision to raise the rescue. So we have rescue service in town. And, then you throw in a bucket truck for, and then our rent went up $15,000. The police station and the trailers. So, and then you throw in some extra money for blacktop and the bucket truck, which the board, we all agree we need. And we're at $420,000 out of $431,000 for the increase. So a lot of it is, our medical has gone up 29% in the last 4 years. The town, it's gone up $557,000 in the last 4 years. We spend $2.5 million a year on medical insurance for the town. It's, the good news is that this year, it's been going up 9, 10, 12% a year. This year, it went up 3.5% or 4%, right? So this is the lowest increase in medical that we've had in 5 years. So maybe things are getting better. But that's kind of where we are with the budget. So, it's going up. A lot of it's fixed costs. We're trying, and at the same time, our state aid has gone down. They cut the amount of money that they're giving Chris to pave roads this year. So we still have to pave the roads, so we put money into the budget to pave the roads because we have to do it. You want complain to someone, we're in this weird spot in New Paltz where everyone thinks New Paltz doesn't need any money, but we don't get a ton of money from the state or anyone. It's a lot of it, 99% of our budget is with taxes.
So Neil, can you just clarify that you said 420 of 431,000? Can you just say what those numbers are again?
So 50,000 for retirement. These are roughly, so it's 50,116 for retirement, 80,666 for medical, $118,000 for debt payment, $70,200 for rescue, and then the rent is about $15,000.
So these are the parts that are raising, that are increases.
Those are like our kind of fixed
Fixed
increases.
Increases, 333,000.
And that's about a 4% increase. So our spending went up about 4%, but, like I said, the reason that the tax is going up is because, we don't have any savings anymore. So, hopefully next year, because now we're down to not, unless we've over budgeted for many things, we may not have fund balance next year either. So if appropriations increase at roughly the same amount, we should have a lower tax increase next year because we won't have a big jolt from having savings to not having savings. And now, people want to have more discussions.
What is the share increase that we were looking at again for the rescue squad?
I think we increased it.
wanted like 118,
Yeah.
and I think we came up
I
with
just wanted to-
67 or
it was
70 or
67.
something like that, if
Yeah.
my memory serves me.
Yeah, it was 65 because last year they ran a $65,000 deficit.
Yeah.
And they took money out of their fund for vehicles. So, that's probably, I think, half the cost of a vehicle, which means it's that much longer before they can replace the vehicle.
Was there a point you wanted to make about that, Dan?
No, I just wanted to, because we had gone back and forth with a number of numbers at that meeting. I just want to remind myself where exactly we landed with that.
A little more than half of what they
Yeah.
were asking for, and then we were agreeing to work with the chief on making some connections with some of the heavy users in town
That's correct.
around trying to get some other sharing of the initial additional costs.
Matt and I have gone back and forth. We're trying to get coffee to chat a bit about that.
Great.
More too.
Yeah, so really, so much of this is fixed and is not, we're not making a lot of decisions
Nope.
around some of this stuff, except to keep some of, keep the roads paved, get the bucket truck we need, and make sure our emergency services is funded, as far as I see. You can, as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
You just said the people who use the emergency services the most, you wanted to get them to contribute, is that like the Woodland Pond thing? I mean.
There is some discussion around asking Woodland Pond to help meet some of the costs of emergency services, because they are heavy users of that, and a lot of those calls that are made there are
Yeah,
RMA.
RMA, and they don't generate any revenue for the service.
Right, so that is something that you're gonna.
We're trying to
Yeah.
work with the chief on those things.
That happens, then you won't have maybe a $70,000 increase.
No, that's not likely
No.
what's gonna happen. That's how they're gonna get to what they need, which is 118,000.
Yeah, they
So
came
need
to.
118.
Yeah.
We didn't give them all 118 because we decided on 65 or 67 or something like
Yeah.
that.
And they wanted 111.
111.
Yep.
And we said, would you take half that? And so,
Part of the issues for the emergency services also that they haven't given us an increase in, was it 5 or 10 years? And so we're asking for regular increases that really meet their needs so that we can keep emergency services running well.
And to be fair to the people at Woodland Pond, this is also a broader conversation on other entities
Yes,
too.
there
as
are other
well.
entities,
SUNY New
too.
Paltz was one we were thinking about as well.
Yep. It's not just Woodland Pond, for sure.
We don't usually do it, but we've opened the floodgate.
Sure.
So.
So the 6% is stage.
I didn't come.
Is the proposed tax increase, so status quo, preserving city service?
Yeah, we're trying
I
to,
think
you know,
so.
we've kind of cut the last few, each of the last few years, we've been looking at, each budget line and trying to do more with less. I think, Chris, the highway superintendent, I think has done that better than most, all of the departments. Personnel actually some of our personnel costs actually went down. As people have retired, we haven't replaced them. So we're trying to not fire or lay anyone off. But as, one example would be, we've had a few people left, and we've tried to say, well, can we bring in this outside firm to maybe clean the town hall? And, it costs about the same, but we don't have the legacy costs, and we don't really have the healthcare costs, and we don't worry about, well, we know that cost is gonna stay the same for the next 3 years, and we're not gonna see 10% increases on their healthcare. So we're trying to do that without, so far, we're trying not to cut anything unless there's big changes, like, well, we're doing these water meter replacements with the DEP. They're paying for the water meter replacements, and the village is gonna take on the readings for us. And so now we don't have to have the workers, 2 of the workers that would spend, was it 2 days, 4 times a year, 2 weeks a year.
2 weeks every quarter.
They'd spend 2 weeks every 3 months reading meters. With these new meters, it's all done electronically, and the village is gonna do it, so, we've just saved, 2 months of personnel time.
I mean, just for the taxpayers sitting here, your brief presentation earlier didn't give any sense that you were, what you were doing to try to toe the line or to avoid the tax increase. I'm not sure from the process point of view that today's briefing was supposed to do that.
Yeah, this is like
We
the,
also haven't read anything in the
Yeah.
newspaper record that really describes that either.
I mean, we've had some articles in the paper about it, and we've had, I think, maybe 4 meetings where we've actually gone down line by line, and, discussed it, and the department heads were here, and we talked about, like, okay, well, can we cut this out of your line? And they kind of clutch their notebooks, and like, I need that. And so we cut some of those things out, and then the department heads had to come back and make their case to the board, and those are some of the things we added back in, so.
New York has a 4-year financial does the town of New Paltz have any sort of, I mean, I can, think about a 6% increase easier if I'm not looking at 6% down the road.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And we a lot of it has been, we've been reacting to, a lot of the drivers for us are, personnel costs that are,
Out of our control.
not out of our control. We negotiate those with the unions, but we now have a 4-year contract signed with 2 of our 3 unions, and we're in arbitration with the 3rd. So, I think now is probably a time where we're able to probably make a 4-year plan. And I think that's a really good idea, and I think maybe we'll try to do that this year now that we kind of know at least what our personnel costs are, maybe not the insurance, but I think it's a worthwhile effort. I'd like to do that.
I think it's worthy. I just think, the healthcare number is such a huge uncontrollable number, and if you get good news, it helps. But if you don't get good news, then we're in the face of cutting services, which I don't think we had to necessarily do this year. We certainly had to cut back people's budget requests this year to kind of like keep it in check and not show an 8 or 9% increase, which could have happened. But so much of these costs are just like, there's not too many decisions we get to make.
But I think if we look at it over, 3 or 4 years, and
Yeah.
we've asked the department heads to, and I think some are really good at it, where they have a 3, 4, 5-year plan, because a lot of things that they may be buying or doing as part of being the department head really require to think on a 3, 4, 5-year
Yep.
schedule. So
Yep. It's a great idea.
It works good for some departments, some not as much, but I think it's worth it, at least laying it out, and then
Absolutely.
we kind of know.
Yep.
So I think it's worthwhile doing.
You must know how New Paltz stacks up to similar jurisdictions statewide.
You have to make sure you're comparing apples and apples, right? We do not have any fire districts in New Paltz, so we contract with the village for fire. So we don't have any library districts, right? So when you pay your town tax, you're paying your town tax. You're not paying your town tax and your library tax and your fire tax. There are towns where the fire taxes are as high as the town taxes, right? So, you say, well, my New Paltz town taxes are high, but you just remember you don't get any more taxes for the library and the fire, and we don't have some places have a rescue or an ambulance district as well. So we don't have any of that. We've managed to kind of keep it all, under the town board's control, and so when we can sit here and look at everything holistically, and we don't have a separate group telling us, hey, well, guess what? We're buying a new wing to the library.
It's also a little different too, because there are unique circumstances within our own community. We have a police force, which a number of neighboring communities do not, which is a significant expense.
Huge.
The college, while also having a lot of an added benefit, creates an expense in its own right. And then we have significant parcels off the tax rolls between our government buildings, our, we have a lot of open space, which is not a bad thing, but that comes at an expense to a degree as well, and obviously the college as well.
When you negotiate with your unions, and is that where you would lock in the employee contribution to the medical increases?
Yeah. Yeah, and, we negotiated, we like our employees, but I think a lot of them understand, like, we've negotiated higher contributions on their part, in both contracts that we've negotiated so far this year and signed. And that's the reason we're in arbitration with the 3rd. They didn't want to negotiate a higher contribution, and that led to a deadlock, because we think it's really important that we have to do that, and so now we're in arbitration. And I don't like being at odds with our own employees, but we kind of, it's not sustainable the way it is now, And that's kind of the case that we've made to the arbiters, saying that, you know, we showed them, like, this is what our taxpayers have been paying year after year, and these are what the increases are. And so we are trying that, and we'll see how lucky we are.
I really like the idea of looking at a multi-year budget so people get an idea of what they're looking at, because I don't think it's likely to get a whole lot better, personally.
But I
So
think it's good for
people
us
to
as a
keep-
board, and it's
yeah,
probably
plan.
good for department heads to think
Oh,
about,
it's
you
a-
know,
It's starting to become obvious that no surprise projects are gonna get funded, because we don't have that capability without just crushing people with tax increases. So planning ahead is gonna be the way to go. And, you know,
I would add that we are sensitive to the impacts on all of our neighbors and ourselves. I'm retired. Every time I vote for a budget increase, which I'm gonna do again, it impacts me, and my partner and I have to figure out, well, where do we rein in from someplace else? Because we both are on fixed income, she's on disability. It's just not gonna fall out of the sky and help us. We wanna stay in New Paltz, it's a challenge. But we're sensitive to that. It's not that we just say, oh, yes, let's approve this and let's approve that and move on. We look carefully. As Neil said, we looked at line item by line item, each of us say, well, could we do something with this? And we discussed that at our previous several meetings, and where we end up, we've really considered it.
Let's, read a little bit about the sales tax issue.
mhm.
Is there any movement?
so the sales tax, I don't have a lot of hope with that, but just to let people know, like the sales tax, if someone comes to New Paltz, right, and spends $150, the sales tax in New York State is 8%, right? So 8%, hopefully I'm remembering the numbers right, it's $12, roughly. So of that, and 4% of that 8% goes to the state, so they get their $6. Then the other $6 goes to the county. But out of that $12, and we don't share it with them, we use it in our A fund, which pays for the townwide service. Loan of $17,000, move it over to A,